Almost every human tries to figure out what they like best as a kid, whether it concerns sports, art, school subjects, or even your favorite game. Figuring out who you are in regards to your identity is probably one of the most exciting aspects of life, which is why my parents put me in pretty much everything at a young age. My parents were my biggest supporters, and to this day, they tell me I was great at everything and just such a natural. However, I reflect and I see it as quite the opposite. I was placed in soccer where I'd run the opposite way and score into my team's goal. I was put into softball where I would just stare at the pretty pink glove I was wearing. I was put into piano where my main focus was my sweet piano teacher's dog, Coco. I tried guitar, but refused to continue after cutting myself with the strings. I tried martial arts, but quickly stopped after my mom took up the adult classes and was much better than I was. I tried singing, though that was quickly put to rest. I even tried sewing, but you get the point. I was placed in all kinds of activities as a kid, but none of them seemed to stick quite like one. My friend's mom discussed with my mom about putting her daughter in gymnastics, saying that it would be enjoyable to do together. Gymnastics most definitely was not my parents' choice of sport. That was the commitment, the cost, the risk of injury. It was all a lot. However, my parents knew of what it entailed due to their siblings being competitive in the sport. They thought it wouldn't hurt for her to try something else. So I was placed in gymnastics, and I absolutely loved it. At first, it started off as a fun hobby I got to do once a week for an hour. Getting out and doing some moderate exercise was so good for me. My interest progressed pretty fast, and at 5 years old, I was already dedicating time outside of my scheduled practices to practice at home. It was my outlet, trying everything I could to be the best I could. Eventually, in 6th grade, the intimidation of teams started to vanish, creating quite an interest in competition. This caused my hours to increase to around 12 to 16 per week, giving me much more time to train. I grew incredible friendships with people I'm still so close with to this day. I didn't realize it at the time, but this would be the thing that shaped my personality. Most would agree that your childhood role models have an incredible influence on you. For me, my childhood role models were my fellow teammates. Seeing their love for gymnastics and their drive for competition truly taught me to appreciate the sport. I saw the supportiveness for our fellow teammates as quite inspiring, teaching me how to have empathy and be understanding. I also witnessed that when they messed up on a routine, it would negatively impact them for an entire week. I found that as I'd gotten older, I'd truly taken away a lot of these simple characteristics from them. From a positive standpoint, I'd been taught how to be a leader and manage stress. However, I do feel as though I was turning more and more into perfectionists. As they graduated or left the sport, I feel as though I turned into one of the girls that younger girls looked up to. And I also feel as though I left a similar impression on them. But to me, there was no outside of gymnastics, making it my only personality trait. The challenge, recognition, and friendships, I just loved it. I believed that all I needed was my family, friends, and gymnastics. Gymnastics most definitely is what made me, me. It was my identity and what I associated myself with until I quit. Quite relatable to most teens, it was the beginning of high school. Many had left to do high school sports that took less time or simply left due to lack of interest and injury. When I returned, the gym was unrecognizable. My head coaches had left, and training 4 hours, 4 to 5 days a week was too much after such a long break. It was an incredibly hard decision that took me months to make, but I knew that it was best for me, at least my mental health. Physically, it was very challenging. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had other interests, but to me, they weren't as fulfilling as gymnastics was. It felt weird to sit down and paint a vase or watch a movie. Gymnastics was something that was not only fun for me, but fulfilling. I had goals, and I was working hard to achieve them. Thus, casual hobbies were not good for me. Self-identity is a struggle, and it is something that everyone must encounter. Each day, we all go through new experiences that help shape who we are. The simple fact of knowing that everyone, including my peers, goes through the process of figuring themselves out truly interested me. So much so that I decided to conduct a simple Instagram poll on my story. I had found that 85% of people had struggled with their self-identity. This surrounded around things like gender, culture, social identity, and purpose, like my own struggle. They also said that it was hard for them to initiate new experiences that could better their perspective on themselves. Now, this isn't just a coincidence, but has been further backed up by research. The New York University has studied this idea that the main ways that individuals have come to understand their lives and their identities is through the creation of memories and experiences. NYU asked participants aged 18 to 20 to write about the most significant events in their lives to further relate back to themselves. Participants often wrote about academic achievements, social success, or a milestone in career to further relate it to how they perceive themselves. The better and more experiences they had, the better outlook they had on themselves. This study is so powerful, further proving that self-experiences are crucial to the way you view yourself. It is also important to note that your identity is subject to change. Your interests, your job titles, your relationships, they're all subject to change. It shows growth and development as a person. For example, if you're a high school student in the crowd, you may experience the development of becoming a college student. Sometimes identities have roots that stay the same, but may experience new developments. If you're a parent, that title will never go away. However, a new addition would be becoming a grandparent. For me, I didn't want to give up on gymnastics and never turn back. I decided to research ways I could stay involved and found that I was eligible to become a judge. After a lot of studying and training conferences, I became at the time the youngest women's gymnastics judge in Southern California. It was my way to still have an identity in gymnastics, but be able to focus on other things. I realize now that it is so crucial to not allow one thing to define me. There are so many incredible topics, ideas, and experiences. And by diversifying your experiences, you're enhancing your personality. And for those struggling, accepting that your identity is subject to change and is filled with many aspects is an incredible first step. Thank you.